I'm going to get into transgender policy and ask you very specifically, at the direction of the Department of Homeland Security or at the direction of the Department of Defense, is the Coast Guard in any way following the direction of other services or one of our service secretaries to do things other services has done, allegedly support recruitment and retention by planning drag queen story hours on air bases as a following the other services, hiring influencers that are drag queens or transgender to specifically boost or have a program to specifically recruit transgender individuals. Does that exist in the Coast Guard?
Not to my knowledge, Congressman. We follow the other services with regard to our policies around transgender members. I'm not aware of any specific recruiting efforts that are targeting that community.
Thank you. I couldn't find any, so I wanted to ask you outright if such a thing existed. Going specifically to the policies, I'm reading a number of different policies dated different times over the years by the Coast Guard. Is it still the policy of the United States Coast Guard that individuals with a history of gender dysphoria will be permitted to join the military if they are only stable for 18 consecutive months in their biological sex prior to accession as certified by a licensed medical professional? Is that still the policy of the United States Coast Guard?
I'd have to take that for the record to make sure that the 18 months is exactly the number. But generally, we do have a policy that allows stable members with gender dysphoria diagnosis to enter our service, consistent with the other services.
Acknowledging that you don't know the exact month number, I know reading numerous documents, it was hard for me to find as well whether it's 36 or 18 or if there had been a change. So conceding that there's confusion about the exact date, why does it exist that individuals have to be stabilized in their biological sex before allowing to assess into the Coast Guard?
Well, I think what all the services are doing is just like any other medical condition. We want to make sure that we know what we're getting and that we have somebody who is stable and therefore they will be able to serve, similar to many other medical conditions.
Can you describe the medical condition?
Excuse me?
Describe to me this medical condition.
Any other medical condition? Or?
This condition, gender dysphoria. Individuals that need to be stabilized in their biological sex for 18 months or something close to that in order to receive accession into the Coast Guard. Other policies in there have not transitioned to their preferred gender, and a licensed medical provider has determined that gender transition is not required to protect their quote-unquote health, and willing and able to adhere to all standards associated with their biological sex, other things listed out there. Can you just help me understand what is the medical condition of gender dysphoria?
Sir, Congressman, I'm not a medical professional. I can certainly provide or offer a brief with our chief medical officer, and she could probably do a much better job than I in answering that question.
But I'm going to say this, based upon the Coast Guard's guidance, and I agree with it, it does appear that they acknowledge that there are medical conditions associated with individuals identifying outside of their biological sex. And I think that's a very real issue. I think it's absolutely affecting retention in all of our branches of the military. I think for the branches that are specifically looking to recruit individuals that are transgender, they're losing more than they are recruiting, and I don't think it is a focus to make the fighting force that much better. But I want to move to one other quick Coast Guard document here. Coast Guard Human Resources document. It's the last question on this, and I'll submit it for the record in case you want to see it. But here's the question. This is from a Coast Guard document. This isn't my question. Isn't focusing on diversity issues creating reverse discrimination and separating us further rather than uniting us? This is a United States Coast Guard Human Resources document, and I will just say this. The answer was an absolute non-answer, so I would ask, Admiral, could you answer that question from a Coast Guard document? Isn't focusing on diversity issues creating reverse discrimination and separating us rather than unifying us?
I'm happy to answer that question. I don't know the context of that paper. What I can tell you as a military leader of 38 years.
I'll submit it for the record.
In a service that relies on small teams at the tactical edge to get the mission done, there's no question diverse teams are more effective, and every single member needs to feel included, or else they will not be as effective as need to be. So I do not agree that focusing on diversity causes reverse discrimination.
I would recommend you take a look at this document, and you all look to update it, because, like I said, very much a non-answer. I don't have time to go into it, but very much a non-answer given to a very important
It
question.
was a very
Thank
direct
you.
answer. He answered your question.
That they updated on here, it's a very non-answer, a very,
But the Admiral.
let's pause one second, I haven't yielded you any time, but, as I said, a very non-answer on the document here, which I will submit for the record. Representative Garamendi, would you want to read it? I don't think you've read it yet.
Pass it
I'll
down.
pass it on down. There you go. You can read it for the non-answer for yourself.
I'll take a look as well afterwards.